welcome everybody to our second Terrace Talk of the year. This time we are focusing on AI and everything it has to offer. I've not gone blind overnight. I'm actually doing two things that I promised I'd never do to myself. One is try new technology in front of 100 plus people, and the other is ask it to do me a joke. All right, so I need you on Team Johnny for this one. So I'm going to put AI to a test with my Meta glasses and see how it goes. And this is the first time we've done something like this, so bear with me if it's a bit slow. Okay. Hey Meta, give me a warm-up joke for a group of hard-working business people. Make it topical, clean, and funny. Okay. It's just topical. Turn the music off, Ricky. News just in from last night in the UAE. The latest Flintstone movie was launched. Initial polls show the people of Dubai don't like it, but those of Abu Dhabi do! Kai, you said you laugh harder.
I'm saving my energy, that's why, sorry.
Welcome to Power of AI. Was that okay?
It was great.
Okay, to grow at that joke, right? Don't worry. Thank you for your support. So as I was saying, good morning everybody. This is the second in our series of 4 Terrace Talks. First one, Dwayne Chambers. Second one's Kai and Montage Digital. But we've done it a bit differently this week. AI is a topic that touches most of us, or we are curious about. So Kai has worked effortlessly. A lot of hours have gone into his presentations that he's been delivering. I think we've done 6, or we're going to do 6 this week.
Yeah, we've had 2 so far today, and then we've got 2 more on Friday. The first one's at 10 a.m, and then the second one will be at 2 p.m. So it's completely different workshops, all about how to basically upskill yourself and take practical applications to you, your business, and your daily life.
Great. The one on Friday, interestingly, ends with drinks upstairs at the Terrace. So it's my favourite session of the day, and you'll all be very welcome. So on that note, Kai, do you want to talk through what the presentation is today, what we can expect to learn from you in the next hour?
Yeah, of course.
And we're going to make it interactive for the last 15, 20 minutes, aren't we? Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you for the introduction, firstly. Wow, amazing turnout for 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. So thank you so much, everyone, firstly, for taking the time and being here. We already had 2 amazing sessions on Monday. Who was actually at that session? Nice. Got a Kaiyan Ali fan club here, so stay behind afterwards if you want. Signature. But I honestly got some really good feedback, and it was all about how you can start implementing AI into your business, because I think it's such a massive, vast topic that so many people are confused about and are actually getting really, really scared. And we've been implementing so much into our business and our clients' businesses. Basically, everyone kept asking me questions in co-working, and I said, just stop asking me questions, just everyone sit in a room, I'll do it all at once. So that's basically what this week is, right? But really, this talk is not as practical as the first ones in terms of you're going to be able to go away and apply things immediately into your business. This one's a lot more about changing the way you think about AI and really understanding why it's not optional anymore, okay? So that's what today is going to be about. So if you can, just give me your undivided attention for the next 45 minutes and interact with me as and when I ask. That'd be amazing. Firstly, we're going to do a little game. We're going to do a little exercise, okay? And I want everyone to put their hands up, and I want them to leave their hands up, okay? And when what I say doesn't apply to you, just bring your hands down. So I want to get a bit of a feel for everyone's understanding in the room. Does that sound good? So everyone get their hands up. If you have heard about AI before in some capacity, keep your hand up. If you haven't, then you can't read clearly because I'm giving you a goal there straight away. If you use a free version of AI at the bare minimum, keep your hand up. Okay, good. If you pay for at least 1 subscription to an AI model, so you actually physically pay on a monthly basis, Nice. What about if you pay for more than one? You've got 3, 4, 5, 1 million subscriptions like me? Amazing. Good. Okay, and how about who considers themselves a power user? So someone who builds dashboards, websites, applications, workflows. Okay, nice. Now I'm going to do something slightly different. I want you to put your hands back up if you feel overwhelmed by AI and you're not really sure where you want to be. I feel overwhelmed still, and I'm up here telling you guys about it, right? You don't really know what it is. And that's something very common. I've spoken to some of the greatest AI minds in the world. People who have worked for Google's DeepMind, people who work for some of the greatest software consultancies in the world, and they are still struggling to get their head around a lot of these AI concepts, right? So, we need to understand why AI isn't optional anymore. And if you do feel a bit left behind, I want to start with showing you something interesting. Because we are still very early. We are still very, very early. On this chart, every block represents 3.2 million people. 6.8 billion people have never used AI before. 1.3 billion people use a free chatbot. 15 to 25 million people actually pay for AI. And only 2 to 5 million people would consider themselves power users. So based on our little exercise we've just done, sounds like most of us are at least in the top kind of 10%. So you need to really understand that we are playing a big game. And we're actually in the Wild West. We're in a frontier. We're in paths that we don't know exist just yet. And it's moving so fast that some estimates claim that 90% of all recorded data in history has been created in the last few years because of the rate of AI. Which basically means in the last couple of years, we've made as much information as the 299,998 years that humans have walked this earth before. Most models that exist, most models that you have access to for free, they exceed human PhD baseline levels in all sorts of science, multimodal reasoning, and mathematics. One of Gemini models, which is the Google product, they actually were able to win a gold medal at the International Mathematical Olympiad. It means they're literally the best, on par, if not better than the best mathematicians in the entire world. However, their top model can still only read analog clocks correctly 50.1% of the time. How does that make sense? In the last year, KPMG report that agents have leapt from what was only a 12% success rate in their tasks to a 66% success rate, which basically means you can give an autonomous agent a task and an end goal, and it will go away and do that task with a 2/3 probability of getting it right, essentially. But when we actually look at and we think about most of our daily work as a knowledge worker, we're probably spending 15 hours a week on admin, replying to emails, filling out spreadsheets, writing reports or summarizing meetings. But again, data published by McKinsey show that with today's technology, that again, everyone in this room has access to, whereas only the biggest, most powerful, most wealthy nations and companies in the entire world had access to, more than half of all recurring work hours in a typical service-based business are actually automatable. AI adoption is here. If you went to a talk like this maybe a year, 2, 3 years ago, they would have said, AI adoption is coming, AI is coming, it's here, and it's been here for a long time. Most people think that when ChatGPT came about, that's what AI is and was. AI has been around for a very long time. It's just only been publicly accessible. But people still don't know how to get value from their AI. And it depends entirely on how effectively you can use these platforms. Give me a place to stand and a lever long enough, and I'll move the world. That's a quote by famous philosopher Archimedes. What does that mean, though? Leverage is how much output you get from an input. And without turning this into a physics or economics class, essentially, if you put 1 unit in and you get 2 units out, you have leverage. If you put 1 unit in and you get half a unit back, you don't. You have something known as a hindrance. But there are 4 types of leverage, at least when you bucket them up and generalize them. We have labor, capital, code, and media. Labor does what it says on the tin, really. You're hiring people, you're building a team, you're inflating teams in a lot of cases. Capital, it allows you to buy your way into rooms, companies, or time with someone like me who can tell you what to do. Code, which is, again, now much more publicly accessible, but still a lot of people think they're building something that has got value, but really it's just a lot of things happening and they don't really understand what's going on. And when you actually stress test it or put it through actual real life use cases, they break and fall apart entirely. Or even worse, they get hacked extremely easily by a 12-year-old and that doesn't know how to use code. And media. Media is, again, the ability to record yourself, record podcasts, and publish on social media platforms. So this presentation that I'm taking right now could be watched in 3, 4, 5 years' time by many more people that are in this room right now. But once you understand leverage, you realize that people worried about AI taking their jobs, in my opinion, they're not looking at AI in the right way. Because in my opinion, I don't think you should be firing your team because of AI. And if you are, or if that thought does come to your mind, you've probably hired the wrong people in the first place. They haven't got the agency or the skill set that you probably thought they did, or maybe you just don't understand the task that you expect them to complete. Because what you should be doing is amplifying your teams. And within my network of entrepreneurs, business owners, high-level execs, I'm seeing those who are automating and applying AI to their business, hiring at an increasing rate, spending hundreds of thousands of pounds and dollars per month on new team that can actually implement and use these systems effectively. This is what a typical structure in my business looked like a few years back. Something that we would call a pod in the agency space. You'd have some sort of manager, which was me. You'd have an account manager who deals with clients, the day-to-day, answering emails, rerouting tasks, doing the day-to-day kind of in the weeds of the business. Maybe you'd have a designer where they're designing the assets, the landing pages, whatever it is that your business does. And then we'd have a media buyer, which basically means someone who runs the ads. A pod like that, let's say that could manage 20 clients. But when we got the 21st, 22nd, or 23rd, we were stuck between 2 very hard decisions. We either overhire and we destroy our margins, or we overwork, which would lead to work quality dropping, team being stressed, and eventually us losing clients anyway and getting back to the 20 threshold mark. And that's just the normal game. That's how people used to grow businesses, and people think you still need to grow a business. Just keep hiring and hiring and hiring, and hoping that the margins eventually make sense. However, after 2 years ago, when we started implementing AI into almost everything that we do, we're able to amplify our team. This is a very simple diagram to what it actually looks like in reality, but there's only so much digital real estate I have, right? And I didn't want to stress my design out too much. We have a team that is AI amplified. And again, if you think about this in a real kind of business setting, the account manager would have a set of tools, agents, processes that link to their work, the designer the same, the media buyer the same, and the entire pod can operate at a much greater capacity. And I'm seeing that businesses getting all of this right, they're not firing people. Instead, they're getting 2 to 5 times the revenue per head from the same team. We're in a very difficult economic situation in the UK right now. Margins are incredibly important. A lot of people in this room, businesses are maybe slowing down, or their clients are struggling to pull the trigger because of this. But when people start understanding this, they realise they can take on more work and they can do the same amount of work with a more lean team. They have a better output, better client relations, and more time and ability and capacity to sell what they do. Studies actually show, this is from actual verifiable data as well, it's not just me saying random numbers to you, right? That AI super users, right, which are kind of like the power users from the start, they're a bit in between the two last categories. They're delivering 5 times the productivity of all of their peers. So in a world of AI that is here, not coming, it's here, everyone in this room needs to be thinking, how are they using AI on a daily basis to amplify their work? So instead of asking, will AI replace my job? What you should be asking, because AI is already replacing tasks in your job. So what parts of my work are easy to replace? Not is my job gone, but what parts of my job are going or gone. And then you should be positioning yourself with that, right? With any market, with any sort of prediction, if you're doing what everyone is doing now, what everyone expects it to be, and it's very happen, you're already too late, you're already behind. So you need to be thinking where are we going as a society, as a business structure. Because AI already lowers the value of simple work. So essentially, if you can look at your day-to-day tasks, and if the work is one of these things, it should be already gone. It should be automated, it should be AI amplified, and you shouldn't be doing it to the level you were doing it 3 or 4 years ago. So if it's an easy task to explain, if it's easy to repeat, if it's easy to check, or if it's easy to outsource, AI will, if not already, compress its value. And something I want you to keep in the back of your head as we go through this is to think about your AIs. And I keep saying AI extremely generally, right? Any of the super techy guys in here are probably thinking, why does this guy keep applying the word AI to everything? That's not what AI is. But for simplification, I'm talking more about the technology that we have access to today, right? You should be thinking about it like a junior employee that's extremely eager to learn, that is extremely hard working, but they never sleep, they never get ill, they never need to go to the toilet, they never need to eat, you know. And they learn at literally 1,000 times what any human could even comprehend learning. They literally have the capacity to go from a junior to a vice president level knowledge base and application in a couple of weeks if and when applied correctly. But the safest work is, and this is where I want you guys to be thinking about your day-to-day and what these parts of your work and your day-to-day are going to be safe, and then lean into them. Figure out, if you're in a business as an employee, how can you help your business owner or your boss work on these types of problems? Or if you're a business owner yourself, how can you change your business product, service, or application to fit one of these 4 core pain points? Because that, if you can, your job, your business is safe from AI. So if the task is incredibly complex, you might think AI is omniscient, super intelligence. It's literally someone that has access to every piece of information that's ever existed, and then a load of algorithms to decide what is the most likely outcome afterwards. If the work you do requires incredibly high amounts of context, yes, AI models can have up to 1 to 2 million tokens worth of context. However, if the context is nuanced or comes from a load of different places, this is still incredibly important. If the job is high stakes, if it's life or death, AI has been applied into loads of medical practices, and the technology is insane at finding, either pre-found cancer or other health conditions. However, there's a reason why we're not going into an AI bot right now, we're going to the doctor. Because AI is still a specialist at that. It's literally life or death. The technology is not there just yet. And is it hard to judge without expertise? Earlier I kind of explained incredibly simply what AI is. It's an algorithm that predicts the next most likely outcome. It's trained on all the information that we have access to date. But what about things that don't exist yet? What about those kind of things? How can it make a sound judgment if it doesn't know anything because it isn't trained just yet? And also, I want everyone to be thinking how a business leader is thinking about AI. And if you are a business leader, how should you be thinking about it? Technology. Pretty good. place to start, I think. Technology is something that is fundamental to the way that capability works. But capability is the current level of its development. So what you need to think about is this a temporary limitation? AI in its current sense, can this do the thing, which is not yet? Or is the model itself just not capable of doing whatever it is that we're thinking about? On the left is Will Smith, AI-generated eating spaghetti in 2023. On the right is the exact same thing, like January 2026. If you show the video on the left to someone, a video production expert or an animator, they would have said AI is not safe. AI's got 10 fingers, spaghetti all over the place. Looks like Kaiyan when he's got a white top on at a restaurant. The technology can do it, clearly. It just wasn't at a stage where it could just yet. So you should be thinking about your job, your day-to-day, the aspects of your job, and that situation. The next thing is complexity. Large language models, which is what LLM stands for, and which is literally the underlying technology behind ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, or whatever LLM we use, they are trained on data. So therefore, complex algorithms, yes, the most likely answer. Interestingly, that's why when you do ask a ChatGPT or Claude or whatever a question, that's why you'll notice they're generating a message. Unlike Google, where the answer comes straight away, because it's literally thinking about what to say and coming to the next best and most likely conclusion. It's also why if you ask it to create you a dummy company or a dummy name, it'll give you the most common name in most cases without any context. It's just training them as much data as we physically have access to. But, as I kind of alluded to earlier, AI gets weaker as context increases. So, AI struggles again when there's high context required, when there's personal judgment, when there's extremely nuanced situations, when there's emerging topics, or where there's no clear best practice. There might be a load of data, but if there's no tried and tested best practice, it will start assuming, but it hasn't been battle tested, no human's actually gone through and walked that path to see if it's actually applicable in the world that we live in. So the simple work gets automated first, the work that's repeatable, the work that can or is well documented, the work that's got extremely low context, or if it's really easy to check. If it's a task where 1 + 1 equals 2 all the time, extremely easy task to be automated. And again, this kind of stuff, big companies have been doing it for 30, 40 years, right? It's not new, it's just more widely accessible and understood. Hopefully it'll be more understood after this if it wasn't beforehand. Because AI still does something called hallucinate, and it always will. Before I explain, hallucinate is where the AI thinks it's right when it's clearly not. I think it's going to rain, this angry lady says to her AI. Clearly there's clouds in the background, and the AI replies, no, it won't. Then it starts raining, where she clearly hasn't bought a jacket, and she said, it's raining. The AI replies, no, it isn't. This is actually happening with AI models all the time, and if you think that you're using AI to make you an expert at a specific topic, yes, it can be used to amplify your learning and your application, but if you don't know any context about that topic, you'll believe the AI's output all the time because you don't have the understanding or the expertise to challenge it, right? Some people in here might think they can become coders or they can learn a new language with AI, and yes, you can, 100%. And what would have taken years can now take months as a human to learn if you're amplified properly. However, deep expertise and application is still required. And this, again, is a fundamental technology problem with how LLMs work. With the current technology that exists, large language models will always hallucinate because they'll always take large sets of data and use algorithms to find the next possible outcome. So there will always be some paths that they have to make up, essentially, if not contexted properly. Now, the third one is risk exposure. And as a smaller business, you can and should be incredibly agile and lean. But as you go higher up the food chain, businesses are extremely more risk averse. You might know that if you work for a bigger company, they might have only started talking or applying AI very recently, unlike me, who could apply it a few years ago without any real problem for me. Business leaders in bigger companies are going to be thinking, even if AI is 95% right at whatever they're trying to automate, what happens if 5% of the time it's not? What if that is a couple £1 million loss, or losing someone's life because you relied on an AI model without any human check or complex understanding or nuance? So then as a business leader, you need to think, how much are you willing to pay to make that 99.5% certainty or 99.9% certainty? That's what these bigger companies are thinking about. It's also why, again, like I mentioned at the start, businesses are still spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on hiring every single month because of this. Because those businesses understand that they need the best of the best to amplify themselves and their business, not replace them. And companies, at least from my perspective and who I'm dealing with and who I'm speaking with, their values are changing very quickly as a business. As a business, you used to care about how much work can someone do? What is their actual output when they are working? And what is the quality of their work? Now we're shifting a lot more towards how much better is this person compared to the AI? How much deep expertise and knowledge and understanding and nuance do they have that can be applied in unique situations? How much risk am I exposing myself? If you're going to get rid of a whole team and replace them with an AI model, but you don't understand the process or you have no one managing that scenario, you're exposing yourself to considerable risk. Business leaders shouldn't be taking that type of risk, although as an entrepreneur you should be the most risk on probably in any kind of trade. There's some risk, obviously, of course, very nuanced scenarios, but yeah, that's something that they're thinking about. Now, just to think about kind of all of what we just said, I want to show this graphic. This is kind of what it took to be competitive over time. If you came from a very wealthy family in the year 1200, you probably had your own personal library, you had access to books, you had access to knowledge. You could read and most likely write, and most of the population couldn't do that. Therefore, you were extremely valuable. Then, in the late 1400s, the printing press was invented. You could print books, you could write newspapers, they could be distributed around the world. And most people had access to knowledge. So now it was about, how can you internalize that knowledge? Then in the 2000s, Google and the internet and Yahoo and Bing and all of those search engines allowed almost anyone, anywhere, to know anything. Now it was about application and filtering of said knowledge. That's what was valuable. That's why people went to get degrees and become a master in a particular topic, so that they could actually apply the knowledge that they had access to. Now in 2026 and beyond, where you have access to anything, anywhere, all the time, in any context, in any scenario, what is important and what is powerful is deep, complex expertise. So having a deep, not surface level understanding of the topic. Because access to knowledge is now democratized. Anyone can have it. Memory is no longer an impressive or necessary trait. Fine, it's good in certain situations, but I struggle to get to a place that I've been a million times 30 minutes up the road because I rely on Waze all the time, right? That technology has made me not use that part of my brain to get from A to B. My dad laughs at me that I can't get to places I go to all the time because of this, but my opinion is I just got more brain space to do other things now. I don't need to remember that path. But what is important, and what I'm going to keep honing in on, is your ability to protect against major, complicated consequences. And for the more senior people in this room, in terms of those who have actually had the time and privilege to go in deep and understand all of these things to the way they have, you've got this. For the younger generations in here, you need to start making yourself get this understanding and knowledge and putting yourself out there and in the trenches essentially so that you can get this sort of application. But how can you future-proof yourself, your work, and your business? I've put together 5 frameworks, and I hope this will be where most of the knowledge is going to come from throughout the rest of this talk. The first is what I call the flight deck framework. Modern aeroplanes, which most of us have probably had the privilege of being on, they have kind of 3 modes. They have autopilot, they have cruise control, and they have, oh no, we're crashing, nothing's working, I need the pilot to jump in and get access to this now and do what he does best. And this is how we should be thinking about using our AI, our automations, our technology within our business. And everything, there's no variance or very little variance. It almost always is the same process and procedure. This might be taking a meeting transcript and turning it into action list. That's 2 tasks there that used to require someone to sit and make notes, and then someone to condense that knowledge and actually put it into action points and delegations. If you were at one of my talks on Monday, I basically provided a load of frameworks and tools on how you can do this if you're not doing this already. I haven't taken a note in 2 years probably, obviously I have, but as in a meeting note, because I don't need to. My phone or my softwares that join my calls do that for me and help me allocate the tasks to where they need to go. And if you weren't able to come to Monday, I have recorded, as you can see, everything, and I'll be giving those out for free to everybody, as well as all of my slides and a load of resources that I've made that actually give you the step-by-step instructions to do everything I talk about. So you're welcome. Next mode is co-pilot. This is when you're taking off or maybe you're landing. The AI or the aeroplane step-by-step instructions to do everything I talk about. So you're welcome. Next mode is co-pilot. This is when you're taking off or you may be landing. The AI or the aeroplane can do a lot of the tasks, but you as the human or the pilot still need to do the checks, the nuance, the complexities. This is when you think with AI. Use it as a business partner, as an assistant, as an employee. And you want to use this mode when the task is valuable, nuanced, or improves through iteration, right? So this might be building a client growth strategy, right? That is a task that could have taken a week to do, just by yourself, pre-AI. But now, with the correct context and usage, that task can be done in a few hours. But you can't just give all of your thinking away to AI, because like I said, it won't understand the complexities, it won't have any nuance, and it'll be the same rubbish that everyone's doing. So, because if knowledge is now democratized, that means everyone, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing from a lot of people that rely on AI, is that they're just getting more and more and more average, because everyone's doing the same thing. Everyone's relying on AI for their thinking, which is not correct at all. And the final mode that you should be using the AI mode in is captain mode. Captain is when everything's going wrong in the plane, going through turbulence, planes crashing, or none of the systems are working. Or when it's high stakes, like I mentioned, if you're a medical professional and you rely on everyday life-saving, right? Or if your business critical for your own business, where it's pricing, scoping, or negotiating, you shouldn't be giving that to AI. Fine, sense check your thinking, do some market research into what other companies are potentially doing, but don't give it away. Sensitive client conversations. And AI can't stand up and talk to you right now. Although again, throughout the first presentation, you can see that you can now make AI-generated podcasts that basically can give you access to any knowledge that sounds like a human. It can call into and ask questions. Still can't do those really detailed discussions that judgment is incredibly important. And then any legal compliance or financial claims. Yes, you can use it to help you draft contracts. Yes, you can use it to understand the financial implications. But right now, you will still be liable for any kind of mishaps that do happen. But before you do start using AI, what you need to start thinking about, and this is something that you can apply today, is to run that flight deck check, right? Whenever you're using AI, whenever you're doing a task, think, what is the human baseline time that task takes? So how long do I as a human need to take or spend to actually do it properly? What is the probability of success? If I give this AI, how likely is it to actually give me something good enough to ship or good enough that needs very little iteration? If a task would take you an hour to do as a human, take you 5 minutes to do with AI, when it takes you 45 minutes to fix and amend, is that really worth doing? Is that not getting more confused? There's been times where I'm sure everyone in this room just needed to reply to a quick email where you relied on ChatGPT, and then you spent ages reiterating the email there if you just used your good old login. You could have got that straight away, right? And that can be applied to a lot of big task stuff. A lot of people are giving away their thinking too quickly instead of there. And how long will it actually take to brief, review, and retry again, kind of like what I just touched on? Again, not to keep hinting at my first session, but I should have been that, when I say. I gave a lot of applications in terms of physical apps you could download, as well as like frameworks you can use to actually speed up the time you brief your AI systems, where you can articulate yourself in a conversational manner, and loads of other tools where you can review your work very quickly and actually retry and reapply it and give it all the context you need. But again, I'll be showing those out afterwards. But I want you to be thinking, before you do any of those flight checks that I just mentioned, think about these three. Then you start forming an understanding in your brain about, should this task be given to AI? Is this a co-pilot mode? Is this an autopilot, just let it do what it needs to do? Or do you need the captain to steer the ship? But again, that's kind of a quick run through on a few different tasks, on where you would run it and how you would understand these tasks. Every time you go into an example, it doesn't have to be physically writing it down, but just in your mind think, how long does this take me? How long does this take the AI? How good is the output going to be? Nice and simple. They're based on those frameworks. What do I do? Do I do it myself? Or go over to my AI model and let it do it all for me, or automate it? Or do I use it as my assistant? And really, because of all of this framework, the real skill is what mode you select and what time. Because AI doesn't and shouldn't replace judgment. It actually increases the value of judgment, in my opinion. Right, framework number 2 is amplify your workflows. Friday session will be, both of them actually, will basically be how do you map and build your workflows. So if you're free at 10 a.m. and or 2 p.m, come through, they'll both be different. But I'll give you some simple frameworks now. The benefit or the application is not doing the task necessarily now. It's designing the system that gets a task done for you, really, like I've just kind of run through. Because if you're doing 50% of your work that can be handed off, and you're still doing that work, you are being outcompeted, and you've got people that are moving way faster than you. Harvard and Boston Consulting Group, they tested 758 consultants across their businesses. And they found that top performers out of that group, they fell into 2 buckets. These are their names, not mine, right? They fell into a bucket they called centaurs. Those were the kind of people that their workflows, they divided their tasks between themselves and their AI with clear handoff points, or what's known as like a human in the loop, where you do a task up to a certain point, you flag for human review, the human jumps in, does what they need to do, pass it back off, and you kind of work in that kind of cycle. Or cyborgs, where they integrated AI into every single step of their workflow. Their top performers fell into these 2 groups. The third group that they tested, they used AI. They did use it, like everyone in this room when they had their hands up. But they just didn't have a structured process. They didn't really know what they were doing, they were just kind of using it. They were just hoping what they were doing was correct. Their work was 19% worse Bear in mind, you are studying 758 of the smartest people in the world across 2 of the biggest companies in the world. So I imagine that's probably a lot more vast if you looked at the average population. Find me telling you that and you're sitting there thinking, oh crap, I just asked ChatGPT to do stuff for me. Well, am I in trouble? No, because I'm going to tell you how to build your first workflow and the kind of thought process to go through. Firstly, you want to choose a reoccurring deliverable. What do you do on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever it might be? You don't want to break it into stations. Literally everything we do is a set of processes, everything. Getting cereal, like making a bowl of cereal is walking into the kitchen, opening a cupboard, finding the cereal box, taking the cereal box out. Obviously, I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs, right? I'll make cereal, I guess. But everything we literally physically do all the time is a subset of tasks. And if you think about technology in that sense, you'll be able to automate a lot of things, again, assuming that they make sense to automate. You want to then assign each station or each task a mode. Would this kind of task be a cruise control mode? Would this be a co-pilot mode? Would this be a captain mode? You start understanding a bit more about how a workflow should look. And then you dial in on the repeatable frameworks. So any of the tasks that are cruise control, start breaking them up into more subsector tasks. And then that's the first things that you automate or apply AI to. And then you add quality control. I want to automate a task and then start firing things off to clients. I get a lot of cold emails that do that and they're very bad. Right? I'm sure you guys do too. So what you want to do is see, okay, where is the human going to review this? And then where can they iterate and improve? Once you know how to build a workflow, how do you amplify your workflow? I ran through this in a lot of detail on Monday, but what you want to do is start with projects. Because right now, most people in this room, even if you are using projects, even if you do use the same chat window in your ChatGPT or whatnot, you're starting from scratch almost every single time. And there's 3 core pillars you need to be thinking about. The instructions you give your AI, the history or the context that it's got, and the knowledge you have provided to it, so that it's not starting from a still position every single time. So this is a screenshot of my Claude Co work, right? And here you can see my Montage AI operating system. Here are my instructions. I give it clear instructions, and that prompt is massive, but I basically say who I am, how I want my AI to work with me. I want it to always question everything I say. I want it to ask me clarifying questions if I get stuck on anything, so that I'm always giving it the correct context. I then have my history. So this is everything that I've spoken to this particular project around and every output, so that if I'm going to be doing the same sort of task within the same chat or the same project, it at least knows that this is what good looks like and this is what was handed off. I've got my context. So that's actually 2 separate folders with a load of subsector folders in that have every piece of context about my business. Who I am, the content I produce, what our service offering is, who our ideal client is, who we want to be, what our one-page strategic plan is, which is from a great book called Scaling Up. Basically just explains where do I want to be in 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, 20 years. And then every decision I make now, every chat I use, it's always going to kind of cross-check it and say, well, are we on the right track? Well, it knows my context. Again, don't use that as your final judgment, but at least it's going to be far better than just opening up a fresh chat every time or explaining who you are every single time. But how can you actually build context? And again, this is going to be a very simplified version of this, but honestly, understanding and so the first thing you should be making is a business master. That is everything about your company. An overview, tone of voice, how your team's structured. Because again, when I'm talking with my AI, it's like, yeah, Ibrahim needs to do that, Helen needs to do that, Kai, why are you asking me this? You should be doing that, because it knows who's in my team, what their specific job roles are, and what outcome I expect from each of them. Also, what kind of task is with what person, right? This is the foundation, as you can see. Well, you'll see soon when I build out the rest of this graph, right? That's the foundation that everything sits upon. Once you understand your business, truly understand your business, and then you've taught your AI what your business is and who you are, you can then start applying your operations. So what your standard processes, what your checklists, and every single procedure you have in your business. Then you can give it all your marketing content, your tone of voice, your campaigns, your social posts that have done really well, your YouTube videos that have got the best views, etc. Then you can start laying on your sales. So there you can start building out your proposal templates, your outreach messages, your objection handling when you're on sales calls or meetings. Because your system knows your business and your clients. It knows what kind of capacity and how your business operates. It knows what kind of messaging you put out there. And they all feed to each other and actually make each other more powerful and stronger. And then once you've got the core foundations of your context for your business, then I'd recommend making a bucket for each and every client. That way you can start treating your AI model like a co-pilot consultant, and only then can you do that. When it understands deeply who your business is and who your clients are. Your AI already knows who they are. If they come back to you in a few months, they understand what their tone of voice is, and you're not starting from scratch all over again. You're not rebriefing, you're not asking silly questions to the client that you should know the answer to. This is my brain, or my second brain at least. This is my entire business's operating system. It's all of our tone of voice, all of our clients, all structured in a way that AI can read. Really and truly, they're just a set of files that can be read by humans and AI. But those paths are basically telling the AI how to get to what piece of knowledge based on the task or the outcome that I'm trying to achieve. Why that's so important is a bit more of a deeper understanding of AI, but because AI works on credit system, if anyone in here has ever burnt through their credits in a few hours like I have in the past, it's because you're just asking too much of it. What this basically does is give it the clear guidelines and roadmap to find exactly what the answer is for the solution that you're trying to do, right? It's like if you needed to study for a test and your teacher just gave you an entire textbook and said, yes, study the testers tomorrow. It'd be quite hard to shift through information, but if they gave you the book and said, chapter 3 is what we're studying, just study that and you'll be ready. They've given me the pathway to get to my outcome a lot better. Once you've got all of this, once those foundations are built, you can start doing some really, really cool things. And this blew my mind when I did it, but it was quite a while ago. It has helped me massively though. It's very simple, very, very simple. I call it the coffee protocol, right? And again, I ran through this on Monday. But basically every morning at 7 a.m., my chat that I've showed you earlier, with all that context I told you about, just runs on a schedule. And because all of my systems are not just contextualized, but they're actually plugged into every piece of software I use in my business, Notion for my project management, Slack for my team communications, Gmail for all my other communications, Fathom that records all of my calls, Google Drive that has all of my data and all of my client information as well. And then the system prompt, which is the instruction that I give to this particular task, not just that whole project. What's able to happen is that every day at 7 a.m., my AI goes through all of those systems, it reads everything, literally everything. It then synthesizes everything into a structured daily briefing for me. And then I can sit down with my coffee, get ready for my team daily huddle, which happens every morning. And I know exactly what needs to be done for that day, based on everything that has been achieved and everything that needs to be done. So for example, I'm going to show you exactly what it outputted on the 5th of May. Started off with the top 3 to today. It said, you have a 10 a.m. conflict. You've got 2 calls booked in. Luckily I knew that, but it said, decide now, which one are you attending, or are you handing one of them off? So I attended one, and one of my team joined the other one. It then told me that a prospect replied to one of my emails saying, Friday works for me, booking a call please. So I need to follow that up now. It then said, Bimo, my video editor, he's got your animated version with no sound effects ready for my review. So I need to sign that off before that can move further. This was read through my calendar. This was from my emails. This was from my Slack, which is what we use for daily communications. I didn't tell it where to look. It just was able to look for everything and say, based on what you told us your objectives are and what you told us you as the owner's priority is, they are your 3 critical tasks that you need to do today. It then broke down my schedule. It said, you can see I was quite busy this day. 8:30, you've got a team huddle. Then you've got a PPC catch-up with one of your clients. Then you've got another weekly performance catch-up with one of your clients. You've then got a monthly review with your online coach. Then you've got a website demo with one of your prospects. You've got another bi-weekly catch-up. And then you've got a one-to-one with 2 of your team members. Amazing. Obviously, you can read your calendar for that. But I open up my chat and it sends me all of this anyway. Mine actually sends me this on my Slack, but just for showing you how this looks, thought I'd just show you the screenshots, right? But there was a big problem. And if you spotted this, well done. Prep ready. It says reoccurring, no prep plus conflict, no prep plus conflict, no prep, no prep, no prep. Don't know about you, but if I'm going to be meeting with 3 of my clients for the day, a sales call, 2 one-to-one team member chats, I should probably prepare and I should have something ready. But my AI didn't know that and it messed up there. So that is just showing you that AI is not perfect. But what that allowed me to do is use one of the skills I'm going to teach you shortly, is iterate. What I did is I went back and I just said, whenever this type of meeting, that type of meeting, or any type of meeting that falls into this bucket occurs, I need this type of prep. You can go deeper. When it's a team catch-up, specifically a monthly one-to-one, I need to make sure I have their KPIs ready for this month and the month before. When it's a team catch-up, I need their dashboard. Send me a link to their dashboard because it all sits structured on a single database. Monthly review. Make sure you get ready to lie and say you definitely ate too many calories on the weekend when you shouldn't have been. And then it breaks it down into a morning brief and an afternoon brief because I asked it to. So yours can do whatever you want. I work really well in focus blocks where in a few hours, take a quick break, do another few hours, right? So it said, these are your tasks, and they've given me a red, amber, or yellow, depending on how important it is. And then it's done that for the morning. This is what needs to be done in the morning. And it's understood that this is at 10 a.m., so obviously that's a morning task. You need to do that before 1 o'clock. This also, he sent this at 6:48. You better get that approval quickly so we can get the ball rolling. These, they're not that important, but you still need to do it. So it knows that. And again, if it got this wrong, I'd simply just tell it not to be wrong next time and tell it what good looks like, what bad looks like. This is all the same output, by the way, what I'm showing you. It then said, this is your team's tasks. It said, based on your current project's scopes, your emails, your messages, this is what Ibrahim needs to be doing, this is what Helen needs to be doing. So I can come double prepared for our daily catch-up meetings, essentially. It then also showed me what work's been complete in the last 24 hours. So I've sent that introduction email, Ibrahim's done most of the edits, Helen's done this, blah, 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 blah. And what I can do is I can go back and obviously bring that up on a conversation in our daily huddle and say, okay, where are we at with this then? You told me yesterday this was done, are we done or not? And then our watch list, what we actually need to kind of do quickly because we haven't replied or there's a conflict, for example. So how did we actually do, how do we actually come across all of this? How did we understand this works? Well, we actually applied all of these frameworks on our own business. We understood them and we kind of developed them ourselves. And one of our biggest unlocks was being able to save 16 hours per week from just one workflow. That's because the task was repetitive. It could be done on cruise control. You just need one final piece of human check. So what we did is we identified the task. My team member logs a client tracker every time a new client goes live. They determine which platform. They then pull the metrics out every single week. They then manually input all of that data to a spreadsheet. They then write a performance update on that month or that week, depending on the cadence of the client. They then draft the client email. They then say, Kai is ready to review. I then have to sit down and review 20, 30 reports, edit them if they're wrong, and then send it. Extremely repetitive task. Actually, funny enough, much higher propensity for a human to be wrong in this task than a piece of technology, because you're just moving data from A to B. And humans all these years are still pretty bad at that, funny enough. So what did we do? Well, I just applied the framework I showed you earlier. Found the recurring deliverable, broke it down into a load of tasks, assigned each station a mode, built those pieces first, and made sure there was an element of quality control. And then we were able to do this automation that achieved that for me. It took a task that took 16 hours per week down to just 30 minutes. Now, that probably looks very complicated. To be honest, it is quite complicated, but one thing I want you to think about is there isn't one single piece of AI in this picture, right? No AI. So again, I know this talks about AI and being AI ready and whatnot, but a workflow is a workflow. You get from A to B, right? Automations have been applied to businesses for years. All that happens is every 6 hours, check your client account, check the relevant client account to a relevant ad account, run through all of our Google profiles and see if any of them live, run through any of our Meta accounts to see if any of them are live. If so, update your tracker to be live. If not, update your tracker to be turned off, for example. This then is then handed off to another automation based on the data that this outputs to then go away and use AI, or an element of AI at least, to synthesize the data from the previous week and the current week, and then make a written report that can then be sent out, for example. Very simple in practice, right? Very simple to kind of understand. And honestly, there will be hundreds of these tasks in your business that this can be applied to. So yeah, like I said, manual process, automated process, but I still go in and review. So rather than bothering me editing things and whatnot, I just do 30 minutes going through every single account. That's in total, not each account, by the way. And that means 16 hours of mine and my team's task has been brought back. That can now be applied to more engaging, firstly, but also more revenue-driving activities within the business. But how do you know if a workflow, be it automated, AI-driven, or just even a general process, right? Like a lot of businesses might not even have the core fundamental processes laid out. You can't just throw AI or automation at a problem and hope it fixes it, right? You need to actually deeply understand that problem. So what you want to do is track how much time is being eliminated per week. What is the cost impact? What is the labor cost versus the automation cost? Does it save money or does it make money? How consistent is the output? If every single time you get something completely different, I can't be sending out a completely different structured report every single time that forgets what happened last week or just looks a mess because it's not right. It would just be a hindrance on my business, not an accelerator. And what is actually the overall return on investment to doing this? Be it the time I'd spend, the money I'd invest in getting a professional or doing it myself, or actually applying these frameworks. It's exactly how we actually help a lot of our clients. Just go in and we just really go back to basics, understand what problems and outputs, what problems you have, what output are you hoping for? And then we help them map all of this out and actually just action it. And then the ROIs obviously can be calculated in loads of ways, but it's the savings that you've made plus the revenue uplift you've had, minus any cost associated to the automation, then divide it by your cost. That would be your return on investment for that particular task. Nice and simple. Hope you guys are still with me, because the third framework is taste curation. As you can tell by the way I'm dressed, obviously, got some taste curation. That was a joke, you guys are supposed to laugh, but don't laugh now. But taste curation. That's because AI can create, but it still cannot curate, right? It can create something, but you need to curate what good is and what good looks like. So how can you actually do that? Well, again, you need to understand what is the best example of everything in your categories of your business. What are the best websites? What are the best ads? What are the best landing pages? What are the best emails you've seen? What's the best piece of thought leadership that you've read or listened to? Collect them all. Make a little file. Make your own little library that you can learn off of. Then ask, what makes that good? What about it is good? Is it the way that they hooked me in? Is it the way they structured their argument? Is it what they asked me to do afterwards? Because when you're curating things, you might not agree with everything, or you might not like everything, so you should just cherry pick what you like and what you don't like. What patterns keep appearing throughout what looks good? And what should I copy, and what should I avoid? That's what you should be thinking about. And then you want to apply this feedback loop. And again, this feedback loop is basically what I applied to that recurring email automation I mentioned earlier. I collected our inputs and examples, I studied them, I created something, I then compared it, I then refined it, I launched it, and then I collected some more stuff, I studied it, I thought, what else could we create to add to this? I then compared it again, I made it better, and the cycle just keep going until one process that is good enough, does 50% of the task, starts getting very good, does 70% of the task, to is now business critical, and potentially doing 90 or 95% of the task, right? And again, not to just keep showing off my boxes that most of you probably don't understand, but this is just an automation. I thought, like, me screenshotting things and saving them because I like seeing them when I'm having some downtime and scrolling Instagram, and putting them in a file is long. You know, taking the screenshot, moving over to the file, dropping it in, I forget, can't be bothered, or I don't do it, right? So I just built this really simple automation where I take a screenshot and I just chuck it into a chat, like literally on my iPhone, screenshot, click a button, click another button, goes into a chat. My automation then reads the image, downloads it, uploads it to my Google Drive, so I have a library building over time. It then adds it to Notion so that my whole team have access to it, and it adds that attachment. So now I've got an ever-growing library of ads that I like the look of, landing pages that I find are extremely kind of good for conversions, and thought leadership that I really like and I can start curating my own opinion around. And whenever I do want to sit down and do a particular task, I just open up that file and start flicking through them and categorizing them. Another quite interesting framework to kind of get your head into is to stop drinking from the same pond. I spoke to a few people after our Monday sessions, and they kind of said that what I gave was really practical, which I really appreciated. And the reason for that was, their reason was, everyone that I listen to, every video that I watch, they just keep saying the same thing just in a different way. So you need to stop drinking from the same pond in terms of stop reading the things that your competitors are reading, stop watching the things that they're watching. And if you do want to kind of do that, because you obviously need the industry expertise, what sources are they reading? The author that you like, what did he read to then write his book or her book? And then consume them directly. And then you can start formulating your own opinion about things, right? And then also, on top of all of that, another kind of really cool thing that I like to do, and I've always done it, I've just not really realised I was doing it at the time, is I like getting inspiration from other places. Places that aren't, you know, AI automation implementation agencies, because it's all the same stuff, right? But I like looking at fashion, cars, travel, and I get inspiration from a load of different places, a load of different types of things, and loads of different types of businesses. And again, there's something in everything you see. It's funny, like I was in Istanbul a few years ago, and I was in the Grand Bazaar, and I was just like, the sales of these guys are unreal. If they were born in London, they would be some of the best paid salesmen in the entire world. But what are they doing? Why have I looked at them, made eye contact, and I've just spent 200 quid with them, right? What skills did they just apply, and what kind of process did they just do to me? How can I apply that in my business? Gave me something for free first. Hey, why don't you have a tea? It's on us. Walked in, well, you're looking now, you might as well have a little look around. That's lovely. Tell me a bit about yourself. Oh, you got 3 sisters, have you? Oh, there you go. Just sold me 5 different things. And all I wanted was the free tea. But how can you then apply that to your business, right? So, we've spoken about the flight deck framework. We've spoken about how to apply, build, and iterate on your own workflows. We've understood what taste curation is and how to kind of apply it, hopefully. Now, storytelling. What do I mean by that, right? It's not an English class, but you do need to learn storytelling, whether you're a business owner or an employee. Because this chart, right, with the usage of AI, production creation is getting insane, or at least what people think of products. Again, when you actually start playing with them, they break straight away. But product creation is just amplified massively. Humans, their kind of ability to sit down and concentrate is just diminishing by the day. That gap is where everything goes to die, basically. That's why there's loads of products that exist with no customers. That's why you've got loads of ideas that don't make any money, or why you've always thought about doing things but you haven't done them, essentially, right? But AI cannot generate meaning. So you as a human need to. Alex.
You are just a machine, an imitation of life. Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece? Can you?
That was a burn from Sonny the Robot there, right? But it's true. Can a human write a symphony, and can it make a beautiful piece of art? Yes, it can write music or make music. Yes, it can create something artistic. Does it know what good looks like, or does it just go through all of the information it has and put something together? Again, you might start noticing a trend, and at least I do because I'm in it very often. Social media posts are starting to look the same. LinkedIn content is starting to read the same. Landing pages are starting to look the same. Same stupid AI content blocks are everywhere that you look now because everything is becoming more and more average. Because AI doesn't have taste, and it won't have taste. And it won't be able to tell a story that moves an audience or your customers, for example. So what is the real skill? It's turning all this information that we now have access to into something that people actually care about. Why should they listen to you? Why should they read you? Why should they follow you? Think about some of the greatest people in the entire world. They've just got another group of people to buy into their story, their idea, their vision. Any great entrepreneur is able to do that. Any great sportsman is able to do that. Any great political leader is able to do that. But here's how most people tell a story. And again, think about this in a business context, although I haven't really done that. They say this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then now I'm bored. So, here's how a story reads. Anakin has a vision of Padme dying, and Palpatine offers a way to save him. Anakin joined the dark side and then became Darth Vader. The end.
Boring.
Right? So, what should we use? We should use the and, but, therefore kind of framework. And again, I'm just thinking of a way that is quite easy to kind of swipe and deploy. Loads of things you can do this in, right? Whether you're trying to get your ideas across to your team, whether you're trying to get your kids to do something, but I don't have kids yet, so I don't appreciate how hard that is. And whether you're trying to get other people to just buy into a vision. Anakin was the chosen one and the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy. But he was terrified of losing Padme, and the Council could not give him the certainty he wanted. Therefore, when Palpatine promised him the power to save her, Anakin betrayed them and joined the dark side. But in trying to prevent her death, he became the very thing that destroyed her. Therefore, the hero was meant to bring balance to the Force, became Darth Vader. And sets the stage, but introduces the conflict and allows people to lean into the idea. But then therefore, delivers the resolution with clear next steps on what you want to achieve. SOQA is another useful framework. So you present a situation. Here's kind of where we are now. You give a complication. This is where we are now, but here is the obstacle I'm facing. You then question that complication. So what do we need to this answer to move forward? And then finally, you answer the resolution. And again, I've done this when I've had problems with clients before, which was not always happen. When I won't just say to them, "Oh, we've got a problem," you know. Yeah, we've got a problem. You never go to a client and say, "We've got a problem," would you? You go to a problem and say, "This is the problem that we're facing. So what I need from you is X, Y, Z, and that will allow me to achieve this resolution." They're a lot more bought in, they care a lot more to what you're trying to achieve, and they want to help you. Again, this is how I expect anyone I'm working with to come to me. I don't want anyone to come to me with a problem and say, "This is the problem." Okay, that's useful information, but what's the problem and how do we get around that problem then? What do you need from me to get this problem solved? But both of those frameworks introduce conflict, and then they resolve said conflict. So if you want a marketing campaign to buy, like if you want your ideal customer to buy into your marketing campaign, you need to do that. If you want your team to follow you, you need to do that. If you want your AI to work properly with you, you need to present it with the right frameworks. And that's what makes people care in the world of AI. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting sick of the same stuff over and over again, right? Now, finally is the first thought rule. I put this last because it's the one I'm actually the most worried about when I speak to everybody on a daily basis, right? And that's because AI skeptics believe AI will make us dumber. You know, like people think not knowing how to get anywhere anymore is a bad thing. Yeah, I guess so. But is AI inherently bad? I mean, Plato, one of the greatest philosophers to ever exist, at a time he was worried that writing would erode wisdom. But writing was the very thing that allowed us to pass wisdom on through generations, to share ideas across borders, right? But AI will only hurt us if we change our habits. Is TV inherently bad? No. Is chocolate bad? Not necessarily. Is AI bad? No. But if you were given unlimited access to those things and all you did was sat down and watch TV all day, or all you did was eat chocolate all day, or all you did was give your thinking to AI all day, that is bad. The habit is what is bad. If I just went straight over to ChatGPT and said, how can I write this email without doing any thinking, that's bad. So how do you actually protect yourself from this? It might sound really silly that I'm even saying this, but genuinely, I am genuinely concerned that as the younger generation start moving into the workforce, and as even the older generation use this more and more, they'll understand that they don't have to use, well, they think they don't have to use their mind as much. But you should always spend a few minutes forming your own position. Don't be influenced by anyone else. And again, it's just a useful framework whenever you're making any sort of decision. Make your own decision first, then seek feedback. You should do that when you're using your AI systems. You always want to play kind of devil's advocate too. Ask any system you use, is that true? How about this? Why don't we think about it in this way? And you start coming to a different kind of conclusion. You start going down different sort of paths. Because we are on this interesting trajectory. This is where we are now. And again, with like any market, people always assume, you always read the doom and gloom, you always read the hype. No one's going to have a job soon, everyone's going to be on universal basic income, software development's dead, personal coaching is dead, this is dead. Very hype, very, very hype. What is the reality? How are these business leaders going to react to the kind of core frameworks we spoke about at the start? But more importantly, understand that AI is not taking your job, but someone who can effectively implement AI will, because AI is already taking tasks away from your job. So if you can't provide value to your team, your boss, your clients, whatever it might be, then you will be replaced. So think about the flight deck framework when you are trying to build out workflows. Think about how you can amplify and build out workflows. Think about how you can start curating taste, how you can get your mind out of the weeds as well. Everyone, including me, sits at our computers for way too long. Get out there, think about other things, allow no input into your brain for some time and reset your dopamine in your brain a little bit. Understand storytelling, understand that you need to present your ideas in a structured way so that people can buy into what you're trying to say. And stop giving all of your thinking away to AI. So, I want to thank everybody for taking the time. I've been Kaiyan, and I hope you enjoyed and found that useful.